you're washing your vagina completely wrong. And I'll explain to you why. There's some quite bad advice on the internet about how to do this, why there is this pressure on us as women to have a fragranced vagina. Every woman should have access to this information, because then you can decide for yourself, like, how should I do it? Hi ladies, welcome to my channel where we discuss all things skin and women's health. So in today's video, we will clear up this vulva versus vagina debate. I'll also explain to you why you should wash one and not the other. We'll cover how to wash yourself safely and to keep yourself healthy. You know, is water enough? Should you be using fragrance products or unfragranced products, wipes? I'll be talking about which cleaning methods to definitely avoid. And then, as always, I'll tell you when to see your doctor. So I'm a firm believer that we should be familiar with all of our body parts and the correct names for describing them. And there shouldn't be any shame in that, especially when it comes to your vagina or your vulva. Also, we should know what everything looks like. You want to know what looks normal and what looks abnormal, so that if you see something that doesn't look right, you want to be on it. I came across a recent statistic that said 45% of women couldn't label their vagina on a diagram. And I was thinking to myself, this is something I would really like to change. If you've watched my channel before, you know that we are all about health and education. So here's the roadmap. Can you find your way? If you can't, I've labeled it just in case. It's a cheat sheet. Oh my God. Okay, I need to get on with this video. The first thing that I want to talk about is that what most women actually refer to as their vagina is not their vagina. They're talking about their vulva. Let's clear up the difference. So the vagina is an internal organ. You can't see it from the outside, but you can see the entrance. And it's a muscular tube that runs from your cervix, which is the neck of the womb, to the outside world, to the vulva. The vagina is actually a potential space. So it's a collapsed tube, and it's only when something is being introduced or something is passing out that it stretches to open. So your vulva is all of your external genitalia. So you're talking about the labia majora, which is the outer lips, the labia minora, which is the inner lips, the clitoris, the clitoral hood, all of the parts that you can see on the outside. Also the mound of fat that's kind of over the pubic bone where the pubic hair grows, if you haven't removed it after watching my previous video. So if I wanted to be poetic, I would describe it as your vulva is like the frame, and then the vagina is like the picture that's inside the frame. I'm feeling myself now. The second part of that statistic was that a lot of women couldn't describe the function of the vagina. Okay, so what does your vagina do? Or should I say, what can your vagina do? It allows your period and discharge out of the body. It receives the penis during sex. It holds the sperm whilst it's waiting to pass into the uterus. And of course, it's also the corridor or the passageway for childbirth. So let's move on now to the question that I know that you all want to know the answer to. Should you wash your vulva? Yes. Should you wash your vagina? No. I'll explain to you the rationale, and comment down below if that has come as a surprise to you. So as we've mentioned, the vagina is an internal organ, and like most other internal organs, it doesn't need cleaning. The vagina actually keeps itself clean, and it does this in two ways. So the first is with the vaginal secretions, which is your vaginal discharge. So these secretions are produced by the cells of the cervix and the cells of the vaginal wall, and they wash out and clean out bacteria, old vaginal cells, yeast, period blood. And the other way that your vagina keeps itself clean is by having an acidic pH. So this actually makes the environment inside the vagina harmful for certain bacteria and for certain viruses. I do have separate videos that you can watch about vaginal discharge and the different colours and what this could mean. I don't think that there's much controversy about whether or not you should wash your vulva. I think broadly speaking, most of us would agree that we need to keep our vulva clean. And I'm not saying that it's a prescription, you know, you must wash your vulva like this. But I do think that there are some principles which can guide you, and then you can choose the method that works for you. I get so many comments about, am I washing it right? Am I using the right products? Should we be using soap, baby wipes, feminine hygiene products, fragranced or unfragranced? Is water alone enough? You know, what should I be doing? And I can understand where the confusion's coming from, because depending on the source, you actually get conflicting information. Some sources will say, avoid soap, it's drying. Other sources might say, use soap and water or a cleanser and water. And some recommend just water alone. Have you ever tried to clean your skin properly with water alone. Now, your vulva may be exposed to bacteria, menstrual fluid, vaginal discharge, maybe semen, and also the groin area actually has lots of sebaceous glands, so there's going to be oil on the surface of the skin. Oil and water just don't mix. In order to get them to mix, you will need a surfactant, which is what you find in soaps and cleansers. And the surfactant basically allows the oil and the dirt to mix with water so that it can be washed off effectively. You've got hair there. Oil can get trapped in the hair follicles, the bacteria can get trapped there. In addition, the sweat glands that are in the groin actually produce a type of sweat that's broken down by bacteria, and that gives a smell like a musty, almost like a body odor. And then that area is pretty much kept covered for the majority of the day because, you know, you're wearing your underwear, you've got other clothing on, and you may even be occluding that area because you might be wearing panty liners or menstrual pads or tampons. So there is a lot going on, and I think we just need to take some time and just pay special attention to this area and wash it properly with soap or a cleanser and water. Now, I know that there are some sources that say, you know, when you're in the shower, just soap yourself and just let the bubbles, you know, run down your body and naturally run between your legs, and that will clean the vulva. I disagree. If you think about it, this is like saying that you can wash your hands effectively by soaping your elbows and then letting the soapy water drip down your forearms and wash your hands. Please don't do that. We're in a pandemic. We need to be washing our hands properly. Okay, so now I want to move on to my recommended intimate hygiene routine. So start by using warm water to wet the vulval area. Using hot water actually strips the skin of its natural oils, which compromises the skin barrier and makes the skin there dry. If the skin's dry, it will be more prone to irritation, to itching, to getting cuts. If you already suffer from dry skin conditions that can affect the vulval area, such as eczema or psoriasis, then you really want to make sure that you're using lukewarm water. Next, you're going to use unscented soap and water. Now, I know that one size doesn't fit all because I know that some of you will find soap quite drying, but there are actually a variety of different soaps or cleansers that you can use. You've got soaps that contain moisturizers, cleansers that have gentle surfactants, soapless bar soaps now, and even some emollients can be used as soap substitutes. So there are different options. I also know that some of you will say, yeah, but Dr. Simi, I've been using fragranced soaps or fragranced washes for years and I've never had a problem with them. So the reason I recommend unscented soaps or cleansers is because it reduces your risk of getting irritation or dryness, especially if you already suffer from skin conditions that cause dryness or irritation on the vulva. It also reduces your chances of disrupting the normal healthy bacteria of the vagina and then increasing your risk of getting conditions such as bacterial vaginosis or thrush. Okay, so in general, I would recommend that you use your hand rather than, let's say, a washcloth, because I find that these can harbor bacteria and dirt, and then you need to think about, you know, making sure that you're washing them properly and often as well. So there's no reason to kind of wash this area really vigorously. Just be gentle. The skin there is really delicate. If you suffer from ingrown hair in the pubic region, you might actually find it useful to use a washcloth in this case because it just adds that extra exfoliation, which can help to free some of those hairs if they're trapped superficially in the skin. If you want to know more about ingrown hairs, I have made a video about it, which you can check here. So then you want to focus on the external parts. So this is going to be graphic because I want you to know exactly what to do. So we're not going to just be letting the water run down there as an afterthought. We're actually going to pay special attention to your vulva. We're going to start by soaping the mons pubis. So that's the fat pad that sits on top of the pubic bone, and that's the area where you get pubic hair. You also want to soap the groin. Next, you want to wash the outer lips, part the inner lips, and wash both surfaces of the inner lips. Also wash the clitoris and the clitoral hood. Now, don't put any soap inside the vagina because this can irritate, and it can also increase your risk of getting bacterial vaginosis or thrush. Now, for all of my ladies with long acrylic or gel nails, all I can say is good luck and be careful. After washing the vulva, then move on to washing the anus and the perineum. This is because you don't want to transfer bacteria and feces, which is a fancy name for poo, from the anus into the vagina, because this will increase your risk of having an abnormal vaginal discharge. It's the same principle as I've talked about in previous videos where I say wipe from front to back. So the next step is rinse, and again use lukewarm water for all of the reasons that I explained before. Once you're done, pat the area dry with a towel, don't rub, and make sure that you wash that towel regularly. Now, not everybody finds the next step necessary. A lot of you may find that you actually don't need to moisturize this area because it's an area that's covered by clothing, so it's always quite moist, so you don't don't tend to find that you're suffering from dry skin in this area. There are some of you that may suffer from dry skin conditions that affect the labia, like psoriasis and eczema. And you might find that actually you need to use a moisturizer to help reduce the chances of irritation. And if you do, or if you just like to use a moisturizer, I would recommend using a moisturizer that's unscented because there's less chance of irritation. Once you finish this step, you now want to put on nice, clean underwear. Now, new does not always mean clean, because when you buy new underwear, you have no idea where that underwear's been, right? It's been on the shop floor, people have been touching it as they've been looking through. You don't know what kind of warehouse conditions it was stored in or shipped in before it got to the store. So if you have new underwear, I would still recommend that you wash your underwear before you use it for the first time. So as we're nearing the end of the video, I just want to address some of the frequently asked questions that I've come across, which I think that you might find useful. So how often should I wash my vulva? Washing your vulva once or twice a day is more than enough. Some women find that if they're on their period, they just want to wash more often than that, and they may go for twice a day. You don't really want to be doing it more than that, because you don't want to be stripping the skin of its natural oil, which will cause dryness and then irritation. Can I use wipes to clean my vulva? Yeah, they're safe to use, but I wouldn't recommend them over taking a shower. But if you are going to use wipes, I would recommend using unfragranced wipes for all of the reasons that I explained before. I get questions about, okay, if I'm washing myself in the shower and I'm using the shower head, how close can I put the shower head? Or does that mean that water is going to enter my vagina? And does that count as douching? So this is why I explained before that the vagina is a potential space and actually is a closed tube. So if you're just using the shower head to gently wash around that area, you might get the odd, splash of water that goes into the vagina, but this doesn't count as douching, and actually this is okay to do. The other thing that I want to mention is that I personally don't believe that taking a long soak in a bath is enough to clean the vulva properly. As I've said, I really believe that you need to pay special attention to this area in order to wash it properly. So why is douching problematic? Douching is the practice of squirting water or a solution into the vagina because you're trying to clean inside the vagina. So I've already explained, the vagina is self-cleaning. You don't need to do this. First of all, it can flush out the good bacteria that are actually supposed to be living in the vagina. It can change the pH of the vagina, so it makes it more favorable for bacterial vaginosis or thrush. And there have even been studies that link douching with having an increased risk of getting sexually transmitted infections and having problems with pregnancies. Can I use vaginal deodorant? I don't recommend vaginal deodorants. Again, for the reasons that I've explained before. I want us to take a moment and just think about, why should we feel the need to use perfumed products? Why should we feel the need to have a perfumed vulva? The vagina actually has a normal scent. I've talked about this in my previous video. And if you're using perfumed or scented products, you could potentially be masking a smell that would otherwise cause you to go and see your doctor and get checked out. So I would say that the focus should be on vaginal health. I would encourage you to choose a healthy vagina over a fragranced one. Is there anything else that should make me go and see my doctor? If you have excessive dryness or irritation or excessive itching, if you've got an abnormal vaginal discharge, whether that's because of the smell or because of the color, if you're having pain when you're having sex, if you're getting burning or stinging when you're passing urine, if you've got any blisters or warts or spots or lumps on the vulval area, if you're having bleeding in between your periods, or if your periods have stopped before the age at which you would normally expect to be in menopause, I actually recommend that if you're not sure, I would rather that you went to see your doctor to get that reassurance. I think a lot of us can feel like we're wasting the doctor's time, or we feel silly that we'll go to the doctor and then you'll be told, but that's normal, why did you come? Don't worry about that. Most doctors would rather you come early and be reassured than leave something that could be treatable so that it progresses and progresses. And finally, please don't let embarrassment prevent you from seeking the help that you need. We need to look after ourselves. Those are my thoughts. I'm not saying that you should do it my way. I know that we all have different ways of doing things. Thank you for watching my video. And if you know someone that can benefit from this video, please share it. As always, leave me your comments and your questions in the section below, and I'll be happy to answer them.